I tell my students you may write an essay with 5 paragraphs, but never again write a 5-paragraph essay. Isn't that the same thing, they ask? No, I tell them. The 5-paragraph essay has 5 paragraphs no matter what. Before you even start writing, it's locked in. But the essay with 5 paragraphs has that many paragraphs because it was the best number of paragraphs for it to have. But the key is this. The number of paragraphs in an essay is determined by the subject of your essay and the thesis statement. It is not determined by the random number 5. There are 2 different approaches to the essay. One is the formulaic one, and the other, let's call it the organic approach. Despite what I said before, there's nothing really wrong with a formulaic approach. In high school, all things being equal, you will get some sort of a C on a formulaic paper. And in college, probably the same thing, maybe just a little lower version of a C. But if you want more than that, you will need to work on the organic approach. You may have heard that you need to have some kind of a hook in your first paragraph to catch the reader's attention. Here's a list of all the different kinds of hooks that you may have been asked to consider. I've come to hate hooks. In my experience, students spend way too much time and energy, sometimes tears, trying to come up with a hook that will engage the teacher and their classmates and everyone who ever lived and make them want to read their essay. All this time spent on hooking is much better spent on writing. After the essay is written, you might consider writing a hook. But even then, they're not nearly as important in an academic essay as they are in a personal or literary essay. In an academic essay, your topic sentence is the hook, especially if you're taking the organic approach. Here's the basic essay structure that you may have seen before. It's formulaic, and there's nothing wrong with it. You will notice that the introduction is in the shape of an inverted triangle. This illustrates the formulaic approach in writing an introduction. The first sentence is very general, and then you gradually get more specific until you get to the thesis statement, which is the most specific of all. Here's an example of this kind of introduction. Humanity's enduring curiosity drives us to explore the unknown, with space exploration representing a recent frontier. This starts with a very general statement about exploration, and then moves on to a more specific space exploration. And after this, among celestial bodies, the moon's proximity and potential for scientific study and colonization have made it a focal point. This is still more specific. This is more specific than space exploration. It talks about the exploration of the moon in particular. And after this comes the thesis statement, which goes into the particulars about lunar exploration. This essay will delve into the historical significance, scientific insights, and renewed interest in lunar exploration, emphasizing its dual role as a scientific frontier and a potential launchpad for future space exploration. This introduction is a formulaic progression from general to specific, but formula only gets you so far. I'll show you how to write a more organic introduction in a minute, but before we can do that, we first need an organic thesis. I recommend that you write your organic introduction after you write your organic thesis statement. Here's the formulaic thesis statement on the topic of lunar exploration from before. That's the topic, and then you have 3 things that you will say about this topic. In a formulaic thesis, you will notice that the order of the items often doesn't matter, although in this example, this is the most logical sequence. In the formulaic thesis statement of a 5-paragraph essay, we find 3 points, pretty much no matter what. They correspond with the 3 body paragraphs that is required, and that's fine. With a formulaic thesis, all things being equal, your essay will be considered competent. But if you think you're up for it, let's talk about an organic thesis statement. An upper-level thesis statement will not present a simple 1, 2, 3 list. It will present an argument. Importantly, an argument with which a reasonable person could disagree. This kind of thesis has a bit of the unexpected to it, and that makes it intriguing. The reader goes, "Ooh, where'd that come from? Okay, now go ahead, convince me." This is a hook. It's the kind of thing that will make the reader want to read on. Let's say I wanted to write a paper on craft dinner. Here's my thesis. Or rather, this is my working thesis. It might change a little as I write and do more research. That's fine. I have a place to start. While some may argue that the convenience of KD is a valuable asset in today's fast-paced world, I believe by embracing the slow, the fresh, and the communal in our culinary choices, our lives would be enriched immeasurably by nourishing our souls as well as our bodies. Notice that there aren't necessarily 3 things that will end up in 3 body paragraphs. This thesis is clear and it presents an argument. But some of you might be thinking, aren't you supposed to be providing a clear indication of the path that this essay will follow? Yes, especially if this is a formulaic essay, but not always in an organic essay. You see, the problem is that I'm considering a lot of benefits. These. I'll probably not do all of them, and I might mix them up a little bit, but there's probably too many to sort of cram into an already long thesis statement. But like I said, it's a working thesis, and I might boil it down to the point where I can put them in the thesis statement, because being specific is always a good idea. So now that we have sort of a thesis statement, we can now write the intro. I always ask myself, what does the reader need to know in order to understand the thesis? So you can ask yourself that question too. For this essay, I'd want my reader to understand that some people love Kraft Dinner, and also that there's another side to it. So I'd start with something positive about KD's practical appeal, like this. Kraft Dinner, often affectionately abbreviated as KD, embodies a curious paradox in the world of food. It serves as a symbol of culinary convenience, offering quick and simple solutions to mealtime dilemmas. And then I'd want to offer the counter-argument. Yet so much is lost when we make quick convenience the primary driver of our dietary decisions, in what and how we eat. And then my thesis. By embracing the slow, the fresh, and the communal in our culinary choices, our lives could be enriched immeasurably by nourishing our souls as well as our bodies. You'll notice that my topic sentence has gone through a revision. This one's a little bit different than my working thesis, and I'll probably revise it more. But now we move forward. The big difference between this paragraph and the previous formulaic one is that the introduction was written to serve the thesis and not the formula. Now let's talk about how to write body paragraphs. In the formulaic essay, the body is pretty simple. Talk about the 3 points from your formulaic thesis, one per paragraph. And you should put them in the same order that you put them in your introduction. The body paragraphs of organic essays can't go in just any order. The first one has to be the first one, and the second one builds on it, and that one leads to the next, and so on. There's a coherence through the organic essay, not just 1, 2, 3. How many paragraphs? As many as it takes to make the argument in your thesis. And this is why you need to make sure that your thesis isn't too complex, or too simple, or you will have trouble in fitting it into the word or page count, if there is one. The body paragraphs on my essay about the evils of Kraft Dinner will go something like this. That's my plan anyway. It can change. I might end up with 4 body paragraphs or 6. But right now, this is where I start. Once you've got your body paragraphs written, don't forget to make sure that they're coherent. I've got a video about that right here. So after you finish writing your body paragraphs, it's time to write a conclusion. The formulaic conclusion basically says the same thing as the introduction does. You see the triangle? Some teachers say that you should go from specific to general. That's formulaic. The best practice here is to offer a summary of your argument and a concluding statement that's on topic. So with the lunar exploration essay we talked about, I might conclude it with something like this. Human beings cannot suppress our desire to explore, and this may one day lead us into space. Better understanding of our celestial companion is an important step on this extraordinary journey. Yeah, that works just fine. Conclusions for formulaic essays are not usually very interesting. You know what they are going to say. The conclusion of an organically structured essay doesn't just say what you already said. It actually has an important task to accomplish. Your reader will hopefully have been convinced by your argument, and now they are left with a question. So what? So you tell them in your conclusion, if you haven't already told them in your thesis, which is something you could consider. I had a university prof who was always asking me why my thesis mattered. It was annoying, but that's what you can do in your conclusion. You can tell your reader why it matters. I would have to consider what would happen if we sat down as a family for about an hour every day and talked to each other while we ate a delicious meal made out of actual food. I'd try to get this idea into my conclusion about Kraft Dinner. Hope that helps. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.